Hey there, hey, it is Michelle, your big sis for Brilliant Quest. And today I want to talk to you about an important skill that you need, especially if you're taking the offensive and gaining control over making your life what you want it to be. And that is how to spot and recognize endings and beginnings. Now, what I want you to notice is I said endings first, and it's important because you can't really have a beginning without an ending. And yeah, you can say, well, Michelle, this is the same, but no. And I'll tell you this because as a writer, I can't begin a story that I'm going to tell others until I've come to an ending of the story that I must tell myself in a way that I understand it. And it was a revelation to me when I realized it's hard to jump into something to start it when you have nothing to go on. And so a lot of people, including me, because that used to be my case, we were floundering. We're trying to start new things because we didn't know how to find the ending that was the launch pad to that beginning. Do you realize that there are clues and signs to success all over the place? And I know most of you have heard of reverse engineering. Well, do you know why reverse engineering is so powerful? You guessed it. Reverse engineering forces you to go to the end, and it forces you to work back so that you can understand what had to happen first so that then you can start your beginning. It took me too long to realize that. Now, if you already knew that, good on you, but I didn't. And for the other people like me, I'm sharing it. Reverse engineering is a way to figure out what is the ending. And not only what is the ending, what is the best ending? You know, there are people who will reverse engineer something so that they can go and create it. But that doesn't mean that they're starting at the same beginning that the original did. No, it means that they understood that so that they can start their new one, which becomes an iteration of that one. And so it's still an ending. Now, bear with me for just a minute. I'm going to talk a little bit about numbers. I love numbers. I love numerology. And whether you understand it, believe it or not, doesn't matter because they work. Okay. Just like gravity works. You might not understand it, but it works. Jump off of a house and see what happens. Okay. So numbers. And the reason why I'm talking about these numbers is to help you to understand a little bit more about endings and beginnings and why it is important to be able to see them, identify them, and make use of them. Okay. So in our Western numbering system, everybody agrees we got numbers 1 through 9. Now, if you're saying, well, what about the 0? 0 is not a number as much as it is an amplifier. Okay. That is why in and of itself, it doesn't do anything. But if you stick it behind any one of these numbers, and if you keep sticking it behind them, it amplifies that number. Okay. Keep that in mind. All right. So we got 1 through 9. And the way you can look at this is beginning, middle, and end. See how I'm hipping you the game? Okay. So here are your beginning numbers. Your beginning numbers are 1, 2, and 3. Okay. Your middle numbers are 4, 5, and 6. And your ending numbers are 7, 8, and 9. Okay. So with beginnings, beginning numbers, the 1 is kind of like a spear. It is a masculine number. Think of it as kind of like a phallic symbol, or, you know, when you have sex, the person that has the spear penetrates, you know, that kind of thing. But that 1 energy is energy with a forward movement. It's an ace. That's why in sports, when you have a team, there can be an ace, and the ace is the number 1 person. That's the person who they the best one on there. Okay. So this is how they live in real life. Whether you realize it or not, this stuff is real. Okay. So the 2 energy is the multiplier. So you can't really do anything to advance that 1's energy until it's got a 2. Okay. I'm not going to get into deep weeds about this because you can go on Wikipedia and it'll tell you this. Okay. The 3 energy, if you're looking at it from ancient Kemetic teachings, it's kind of like Pythagorean theorem. You remember Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared, a being the 1, which would be the y-axis, the vertical axis, 2 being the b, which is the x-axis or the horizontal one, and then 3 being the c, which is the angled axis up. Stick with me. This is not hard, y'all. So it's just kind of like I'm illustrating a 90-degree angle with a 45-degree, you know, out there. Well, in ancient Kemet, they understood the numbers as this so that people could understand the start of something. So they said 1 is the piercing energy. It's actually the period too. Isn't that funny that we know a period as quote unquote full stop, but we also know it as a 1? It's a full stop because it is telling you that the ending had to happen before the 1 could come. So it's the period, it's the dot, if you will. And so the 1 is male energy. The 2 is female energy. The 3 is male energy in that it is the creation of what happens when the 1 and the 2 get together. So back to that Pythagorean theorem that was in ancient Egypt, they explained it as the 1 is the father, the 2 is the mother, and the 3 is the child. Out of 1 and 2, you get 3. And so the mother on the x-axis is the multiplier. So that's the beginning. That's beginning energy that you're working with. If you don't feel like you've got creative energy where you've got a motivation and then you've got a multiplier so that you can have creation, you may not be in a beginning. You may be languishing in a middle or an end. And there have been too many times to count that I have been stuck there until I got this revelation. And now I'm sharing it with you. That one of the best things you're going to ever do is understand how to identify an end and how to identify a beginning. Now, yeah, the middle is good too. But for right now, this is what we're focusing on. And and I have this saying that once I realized it, I was like, okay, you get energy for your beginning and you get momentum by the time you get to the end, but you got to work for that middle. So that brings me to the middle. So whereas 1 through 3 is an energy of creation, the spark to get something going, 4, 5, and 6 is where you're going to work for it because it's called the trough. It's where the momentum of the 3 is now going down. And so in that middle stage, that's where it's the everyday working it out. That's where if you're trying to get something going, that's where you get into the grind. That the middle is where most people fall off and where they languish or where they get stuck and they think, is this all there is? Because they don't realize where they are in the process. You see, understanding beginnings means that you understand when you're getting out of the forward thrust. And now it's time to make the donuts. It's time to just get up and do the work. It's time to make your way through the grinding when it doesn't look like much is happening. Because if you're looking at this, it looks almost like a wave where you got 1, 2, 3, and then you get into 4. And that's why they call 4 the first foundation, because 4 is where you get to the point where you are stabled again, where it doesn't look like much is happening, but things are not tearing up, breaking. And so it's going along, So the 4 energy is that stable energy back down there, like where, you expect things to just run, right? But when you get to that 5 energy, 5 is all about change and conflict and competition. And it don't feel good. It don't. But guess what? 5 is the second ace. Just like 1 is an ace, so is 5. Just like 2 is a feminine multiplier, so is 6. And so when you get down in that 5, that's where you got to fight for it. That's, like I said, this is the area that's the most dangerous because this is where you'll give up. This is where you'll say, this isn't working. It's too hard. Because unlike 4, where it was business as usual, 5 is where the change comes, because 5 is going to be that trough at the bottom because it's going to lead up to 6. And 6 is the harmony. It's feminine. And it's the multiplier because 6 is that energy that is going to give you the feel goods. Like, I see my change coming. This is where I used to get mixed up. I would think that when I got to the 6 energy, I was skipping to 1. I was skipping to a new beginning. And then I would get turned around when I had to really go through the end because you got 7. And a lot of people don't realize that 7 is not about luck. 7 is about test. 7 is about, did you really learn? Did you really grow? Okay, it's time for a test. Are you really getting what you're supposed to be getting through, what you're going through? 7 is the test because you're going to need to make sure that you're ready for the finals. And when I look at 7s, if you can't remember anything else, 5 is the midterm. 7 is the push to make it to the end. And that lets you know because that test gets you to 8. 8 is at the top again. 8 is the second foundation where you have 4 is the first foundation where it's like, everything is fine and just moving along. 8 is 2 of 4. So it is exponential. And 8 is where everything is starting to move faster and you feel like you got energy and you feel like you got power to make it and all this kind of stuff. Remember how I said when I would get to 6, I'd confuse it thinking I was about to start something new and I'd have to go through that test through 7, fail it a lot of times. And then when I would get to 8, I'd be like, well, surely this must be it because I'm moving fast. I'm doing stuff. And no, that wasn't it either. Because then you got 9. And with 9 is the culmination of everything you should have learned. So it is the end. And 9, if you don't realize it's the end, you can stay in it for too long. Because 9 is going to bring all of the advanced stuff that you should have understood that from where you went all the way from 1 through 8, 9 is going to be like, okay, well, you learned, you supposedly learned Spanish 101. So let's speak some Spanish. And when you can't speak it, 9 is like, we ain't going no further. You can't go to Spanish 102 until you finish Spanish 101. You see, it's crazy how we don't realize that everything works together. And when you close your mind off, whether you realize it or not, and you don't see that there is an ebb, a flow, a cycle, a season, a reason for everything, it makes life just unnecessarily hard. Now, why did I just spend all that time telling you about those numbers? Because life is a cycle. And when you start learning to know what energy you're in or your community is or the world is, you start to make it through the cycles easier and sometimes faster. If you realize that, oh, I'm not getting too much stuff coming at me, I think I might be in first foundation. I might be in 4. Okay, that's just giving me a rest because 5 is coming. Or if everything been going wrong and you're looking around and all the appliances are tearing up and you need a new roof and you're like, Uncle, you might be in that 5 energy where it's time to change, because that 5 is going to force you to do all the repairs and get new stuff. And then once you get all that, you get this breather of harmony. Oh, everything is so nice with that 6 energy. But don't confuse it like you're starting, like it's over. No, you've only finished the middle part. And now you got to go through the end, because 7 is coming to test you. Oh, yes, it is. And it knows that you need to shore up where you're fuzzy, because 8 came out like a wrecking ball. And 8 moves fast on you. And once you're through with 8, you go through 9, and 9 is where you're tightening it up, because it's time for you to advance. It's time for stuff that used to trip you up in your 2, 3s, 4s, and 5s. You're supposed to be breezing through that. Okay. And understanding that, you can say, oh, that's what they mean when there's nothing new under the sun. Everything has its season. If you understand the seasons and the cycles, it will get better for you. And thus, you will start to understand how to identify endings and beginnings. Because if you understand those and what time you're in, when you get to that 4, you're like, oh, okay, it's the trough. It's time to work. I'm in the middle of this season. Okay. But if you never realize how you can end something, you'll never have a beginning. And there are too many people being stuck in endings, just perpetually looping and sometimes regressing and falling back down to 5s and not ever getting it. And that was me. That was me. And so I was like, Michelle, this sounds cuckoo. Ain't nobody gonna want to listen to this. And I was like, nope, I'm gonna tell it because it has changed my life. It has helped me get out of mental torment and pain. It has helped me turn my life around by just understanding what has always been and will always be. Numbers are the language of the universe. You know, even if you just understand that reverse engineering is where it is a review of the 9 energy, because the 9 energy can see everything that was within the whole cycle. And that is why it is so powerful to learn to reverse engineer something so that you can have a new beginning. Too many people are trying to start at 1 and then forecast all the way to 9 when you don't know what's happening, because 5 and 7 are waiting on you. Oh, they are. And they are bringing something you could have never imagined. And so reverse engineering is an equivalent of using that 9 energy to review so that you understand how to get that line of demarcation and truly end. That 9 energy is graduation energy. What happens when you have to graduate from one level to another? There might be tests, but there are provings that you have to go through, defenses that you have to make. So say, for instance, like when you graduate from high school, a lot of times you've got to take a competency test to make sure that you truly understood what high school was about. You know, they're not going to just test you on your last senior year. They're going to test you from freshman on up. And so 9 is that cumulative energy. But if you don't even realize what energy you're in, you're going to fail, because you're going to be thinking that all I got to do is work hard to get a forward thrust of a 1 and I'm off to the races and I can begin something new. Another aspect of this ending energy is tying up loose ends. We, a lot of times, are hampered from getting the stuff that we really want in our life because we got too many loose ends. We have not done what we needed to have a clean break so that that previous life or situation doesn't pull us back. I mean, some of you right now are possibly thinking, that relationship I had, I don't have a clean break, and that's why I'm not able to move forward. If the shoe fits, wear it. Okay. I'm saying, and y'all, I know my son is doing some craziness. Let me see if I can, I don't know. Okay. But anyway, it's okay. You can still see me. But what I do want to say that whether this sounds woo woo cuckoo or whatever, you're going to come back and you're going to watch this video over and over again, because it is going to become life for you. It is going to answer so many things, and you're going to have so many ahas, because when you speak life, life continues to give. And I'm speaking life to you. I'm giving you those insights that a lot of people like to keep hidden from the masses, because this is how the powerful keep, retain, and manufacture even more power. And by understanding your seasons, the numbers associated with them, do you realize that once you hit like around 20, 21-ish or so, you go through 9-year cycles for the rest of your life? That's why a 21-year-old, the next time they even consider looking at a line of demarcation is at 30. Have you thought about that? Why is it that 39 has a lot of power to it, so that by the time you get to 40, you should be a different person? Think about these iterations of 9s over and over again happening in your life. Google numerology and you can find out your own personal life year. If that wasn't a thing, why would it be something that a lot of people in power understand what year they're in? Because if you understand what year you're in, you understand your cycle. You understand where you are. Are you in the middle? Are you in the beginning? Are you in the end? And I'm going to tell you, when you get to the end, if, for instance, you figure out that I'm personally in a 7, that means that year you're going to have to expend energy to prove yourself, and things are going to be thrown at you so that you're going to feel like you're running a gauntlet or a test. But if you're in an 8 energy and you don't already feel it, you need to hurry up. You need to understand that life is giving you a boost so that things will go fast for you if you make the effort. Because I'm telling you, by the time you get to like an 8 and you taking advantage of that last push to get you to the end, by the time you get to your 9th year, you'll be able to ride the wave of finishing it up. And in your 9th year, because you know it's your 9th year, you're setting yourself up for even more power in the first year of your new iteration or cycle. Okay? And so take the time, go through this, go through the notes of where you are, of understanding what it looks like to recognize a beginning and an end. Because trust me, the middle is going to take care of itself. Once you figure out those two, just know with the middle, it's going to be you. You're going to have to do a lot of just grinding it out, of knowing that if you're in a 5, if there's a whole bunch of change coming, if you're feeling confused, if things get complex, that's usually a 5 energy. And it's okay. It's okay because it's gearing you up so that you can get into position to end this thing. Okay. So guess what? Yes, I want you to watch the next one so that you can continue your brilliant quest. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Yeah, I remember to say it this time. And I'm going to leave you better than I found you, hopefully. And thank you so much. This has been Michelle, your big sis with Brilliant Quest. Bye. Now I got to go because, honey, oh my God. Oh, Lord. The sun is trying to do his thing. Excuse me. All right. Bye, y'all.